and or watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a Beşiktaş talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet. Ve
Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast on January 10th. Are we January 10th? We are January 10th. Just have to check there. We still don't have a coach. We still don't have a scout chef, but we have won a football match. Ladies and gentlemen, we beat Sivasspor in the Turkish Cup 1-0 in Sivas in January. We all know it's very cold there. It's not easy. Kartal, let's talk briefly about the cup match, after which we will get deep into some coach speculation because things have been heating up in terms of rumors over the last couple of days. But what's your main takeaway from the game on Tuesday, I believe it was, against Sivasspor? What were your feelings coming out of that match?
I mean, to be fair, it was a pretty bad game, man, for us. Even though we got the win, we finally registered a win, but it was a bit hard game to watch at times, man. Like, Matt Gunnock was forced into making a lot of saves. We did see finally a nice organised attack. Udokai spreading the ball out wide to João Mário. João Mário playing it back in the middle into the path of Rafa, who took a good shot to get the goal. But other than that, man, it was a pretty poor performance. They missed quite a lot of chances. We did also miss some chances at the end, though, to kill the game off.
Yeah.
One for Rashika really should have been a goal every day of the week. And there was another one where Ciro Immobile should have passed it to Mustafa Erhan Hekimoğlu. And if he passed it to him, that would have been a 100% scoring opportunity as well. But other than those positions, man, it was a really, really bad game for us. One where I think Sivasspor were the better team. And maybe we were a bit lucky to get the win, but it's a win nonetheless, and it's very, very precious for us, that win going forward. It gives us 3 points in this cup group phase. So hopefully going forward we can add to that once we have this new coach and hopefully some transfers as well.
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure how exactly this whole cup format works. We'll have to wait and see. We only played 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. Somehow we drew the short straw, and we have to play 2 away games, only 1 home game. It seems very, arbitrary, especially for the cup winners from last season. I know Chada Shatan was talking about that they were seeded, and somehow they had to go away to Galatasaray. Well, Chadash, we won the cup, and we have to play 2 away games. So I don't know what all that seeded stuff means, honestly, in this cup. I don't think it's of a lot of consequence. Of course, Galatasaray got 2 home games, as per usual. They get lucky on the draw, right? As they always do. Yep. I think in the first half it wasn't that bad, actually. There was some moments where I thought we were playing football, including, of course, the goal. But there was a lot of interchanging going on with Mucci and João Mário and Rafa in the first half. Second half was really poor. I agree with you. Ciro came on, looked sharper than he did on the weekend against Rizespor, so that's a positive. I was surprised to see Rasička come on. Didn't really impress me, of course.
Scored, so
yeah, and we don't really have statistics because FOTMOB does not seem to record these group stages. At least not. I think we had more expensive statistics on the cup last season, but that was probably only the latter phases. Don't have any fancy stats to show you. Don't even have a fancy lineup graph to show you. I don't think there's too much to be mentioned about this game. We got the 3 points. That was the most important part. Very important for our start to the cup. Honestly, going into it, if you would have told me you're going to get 3 points away at Sivas, I would have been very happy because I was already prepared for us making an early exit in the cup, and at least this result now makes it a lot more plausible that we're gonna at least go through to the next round. Of course, we still have 2 other games to play. We'll have to see how those end up. We can't always keep lucking out like we did against Rize, like we did against Sivas here. But maybe also a good chance for us to practice a little bit already, because of course in a couple of weeks we'll be away in Sivas in the league. First we have Bodrum at home now, then we have Samsun at home, then we have Antalya away, and then we have Sivas away, if I'm not mistaken. Sivas away.
Yeah, that's right. There's a bye week in between Antalya and Sivas.
Yeah. So in like about 4 weeks maybe, we'll be playing Sivas away. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer there then, but with the climate change, I don't know actually how warm it's gonna be there in February. So usually here in Belgium, when I was a kid, December was white. We were able to build snowmen, and as I've gotten older, that's moved more and more towards April. So I don't know how it is in Turkey, but I don't know how good the weather conditions are going to be then. But hopefully by then, Kartal, we will be looking at a new team with a new coach in charge and a couple of new transfers to give us a little bit more oomph, a little bit more bite than we have been having in the last couple of months. So I don't know if you have anything left that you want to talk about regarding this game, other than it being a very important result for us. I don't really think there's too much to talk about. It was, another.
I mean, hats off to Matthew Knockman. He played a great game.
Yeah,
So,
second game in a row. He's definitely trying to get that new contract, it seems. I saw an interesting post on Reddit the other day, and it was a question whether what Mert Gunok would have to do to be considered a legend, or if he would ever be considered a legend. I would like your take on that, Kartal, because my stance is firmly no. He's never gonna be a Beşiktaş legend. But he's 30. Did he just turn 36, or he's about to turn 36? What do you think? Is there something he can still do in his Beşiktaş career that would make him a legend, you think?
Yeah, so he's 35, turning 36 in March. But for me, man, we need to win like 3 titles back to back for that to be considered. I mean, he's a decent goalie, man, but like we've not been successful since he came. So how could you make a claim that he could be a legend soon? Maybe if we miraculously win 3 titles in a row for the next 3 seasons, and he's on the team for all of them, and then you could say yeah. But in goal for all of them, he needs to be a starter to be considered. But if not, no, I don't see that happen, man. It's very, very unlikely.
Is 3 in a row maybe a little harsh? Because, I mean, Cordoba is considered a legend. He only won 1 title. Fabri is a legend. He only won the 1 title.
I thought, well, it depends. What is a legend to you? I think maybe the word legend is dished out too often these days.
Maybe. But what would you? Who would you consider a legend as a goalkeeper for Beşiktaş?
I don't really know, man. Whoever was the goalkeeper during the meeting at Ari Fairs, was it Ulvi or?
Engin. Ulvi was a defender, I think. I remember. Engin, I think.
See, but that, for example, the goalie at that time period you could consider because of how good we were.
But we also had Engin. We had, I think, Paco. I think was a goalkeeper in that time. I wasn't watching, so. And then a little later on we had Mirmic, but that was already out of that period, I'm pretty sure. And then in like 94, 95 we had Oman, the German. 2002, 2003 at Cordoba. So I don't know. I think I think in Beşiktaş we don't have a goalkeeper like Muslera who has multiple titles, a decade under his belt, or over a decade at this point, I think. Or even, I think, I don't know if Fenerbahce fans would consider Rushtu a legend. I remember, back then, he was seen as a really big player. When he came to us, I feel like he was already kind of aged out a little bit and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think the bar to be considered a legend as a goalkeeper for Beşiktaş isn't super high. So I think if Mert would win like a championship and he would play like... You remember a couple of years ago when Trabzonspor won the title and Uğurcan was really good? I think if you had a season like that where you're just so good and you win your team so many games, I think that's enough. But I don't know if we'll see that in Mert's career. Because I'm quite frankly, regardless of these last two performances he's put in, which were phenomenal, I am ready to move on from Mert, and I've been ready to move on from Mert for a while. I'm fine for Mert to stay on and maybe be like a number 2 or something, because I think it's it's much better for me. In my opinion, it's better for an older goalkeeper to be your backup rather than a youngster. So I'd much rather see Ersin get sold and then Mert staying as a second goalkeeper on the bench and then getting a new foreign goalkeeper. That's a good foreign goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, man. I agree with that. So I think it would be quite hard for him to be a legend, but yeah, maybe I think if he does have one really good season next season or the year after and win a title, a lot of people would be saying that he is, because I think as you said, there's not been a lot of great goalkeepers in our history. So I think like Fabry for me is my favourite goalie that I've seen play for Beşiktaş. I mean, I even remember telling my mates here in Scotland, like at the time, like we finally got a good goalie. So we've not had a good goalie in like over like 10 years or whatever. He's like obviously left in 2006 or two.
Yeah.
He left. Was that right? Yeah. And then he came in like 2016. Yeah. So we didn't have a good goalie for a decade, man. Like everyone was like Rushdie had some good moments, man, but he had a lot of errors in him too. Hakan Arikan was shit. Yeah. Jenk and good shot stopper, but overall lacked the fundamentals.
Terrible keeper. Yeah.
Tolga. I actually really like Tolga in his first. Tolga Zengian in his first season I really liked, but after that he fell off, started making a lot of mistakes, and then obviously Boyko came. Had that one really bad game. And
so high hopes for him. Such high hopes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've not been very lucky with goalkeepers, have we? Yeah. I would argue it's difficult in Turkey in general. I'm a general proponent of foreign goalkeepers because I really believe to my core the Turkish goalkeepers will always have a streak of inconsistency and errors in them. Obviously every goalkeeper makes mistakes. Look at Fabry. Fabry made some big mistakes too. But I think Fabry, if you think back at Fabry, yeah, he made some big mistakes, some that really cost us, like the one against Lyon. But you don't remember Fabry as an error-prone goalkeeper. You remember him as a solid goalkeeper that could win you points. And when you think about any Turkish goalkeeper that we've had, I always feel like the first thing that comes to mind is, well, error-prone. Except for maybe Ersin, but then Ersin is not super... I mean, when I think about Ersin, I don't think about massive mistakes, but I just think about mediocrity, I guess.
Yeah.
He doesn't have those saves in him that Mert has, or Rushtu, or whatever, like those guys had. Even Cenk. He's more reliable, I guess, on stuff you would expect him to be reliable on, like on high balls and stuff like that, but he doesn't have that, he doesn't have the X factor, I guess, for a goalkeeper. But yeah, no, that was an interesting debate I saw on Reddit the other day, so I just thought I'd throw that out to you for some filler. Anyway, let's talk about what's been going on at the club lately, Katla, because I wanted to talk to you after the cup game already a little bit, but then we ended up not recording for the Patreons. I recorded solo episode, and I actually spent about an hour ranting about just feeling like we've been fooled again. No, I'm not so much myself personally, because I kind of
You saw it coming.
I kind of thought I saw it coming maybe. However, since I recorded that, I was being very critical of Serdar Adala and a lot of the things where I think he was at that point. I even said that, like, right now it looks like he's more the continuation of Hassan Arat than anything else, which is ironic because that's what he accused Hussein Yücel of. But since then, today actually, Serdar Adala has addressed the not sporting director, the scout chef. It's the first time, I think, since he's been elected that he's talked about it. So at least that to me indicates that it's still on, it's happening. He's not just brushing it under the rug, acting like it never happened. So it does look like a scout chef or a sporting director, not sporting director as we like to call it, seems to be on the way, or in fact is already working for the club right now, but we're just awaiting his official departure from his previous club, or his current club rather, until we can announce him. And supposedly that's going to be in a couple of weeks in February. But this man, whoever he may be, there's some names floating out there, including I think Martin Siegbert, I want to say, who's currently employed by Bayern München. And then there's of course Mislintat, who used to be the sporting director at Ajax, but is currently working as I think the squad planner for Borussia Dortmund, but I could be mistaken there, or just a scout role, I'm not sure. So there's a couple of names floating out there. We don't really know who it is yet. The journalists like Firat Günayer, Serdar Adala, Mustafa Kurkusus, those guys all seem to think they know who it is. But then one guy's saying, oh, he's currently working for Dortmund. The other guy's saying, no, he's currently working for Bayern. So there's clearly been something that's been told to these people by Serdar Adala, but I got the strong feeling that he has not yet revealed the name, nor has he revealed the club he's working for, because otherwise you would expect they'd be both saying the same thing. Although Siegbert did work for Dortmund for a good while, and he only just signed for München, for Bayern in May, so maybe there's a confusion there or something, like slip of the tongue, a Freudian slip or something like that.
That's what I don't understand, man. Like, see if the guy just signed a contract in May, like, how could his contract be running out in February? It doesn't really make sense. Like, who signs a 9-month contract, you know? It just seems a bit silly.
Actually, you know what? I sign 9-month contracts all the time. 6 and 9-month contracts, yeah. So, I mean, I think you have like these roles where you're officially like a freelancer maybe, or like, and then you sign short-term contracts. It's also possible that he just has a general employee contract, so he had to give like notice or something. That's also possible. I'm not quite sure how these contracts work. I should actually ask our friend of the show, Oliver Zeisiger, because I'm sure he will know how exactly those contracts for scouts and stuff work and how easily they can get out of them and stuff. You know, I'll actually send him a message and I'll ask him how those work. I should have done that before, but I only just thought about that right now. But yeah, it is weird. But I would imagine it's generally because they have a different sort of contract where they can get out of it relatively easily.
Yeah, I mean, see, it's pretty clear though that this Siegbert, if it is him, he's not easily getting out of that contract, because that seems to be the issue that they weren't expecting.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you just have an employee contract, you just tell them, hey, I'm leaving. I'm giving you what, I don't know, six weeks notice or something, and after that 6 weeks you're gone. So there's not much they can do about it.
Do you hear what Serdar Adala said though about how he was meant to be coming on the 1st of January, but then because the club heard about him being linked to us, and now they're saying that he needs to stay till the 15th of February. There's something.
Yeah, that might be
like
the
that.
notice. That might be the notice. That is roughly 6 weeks. So I don't know, how much notice do you have to give in Scotland? Because I mean,
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. Like in some countries, it's 2 weeks. I think in other places it might be 6 weeks. I mean, it might be determined like that in the contract. I'm not sure. So, I mean, but did Serdar Adalis say that today, or is that something that Firat Gunayer said yesterday? Because
I'm sure it was Saturday. Let me check it over, man.
Yeah.
So I don't want to misinform the people right there. Right.
I think it's Martin Siegbert, right? Well, I mean, look, we don't know if it's gonna be the Siegbert guy or if it's gonna be somebody else. Let's see, Martin Siegbert. Yeah, he's currently employed at Bayern München, and his role at München. Let's have a look. It's just a scout role. You know what? I'm gonna message Oliver and check and ask him how those contracts are usually formulated.
Yeah. I mean, I'm currently just looking at to see if it was Serdar Adalis that mentioned the 15th of February. I'm just looking at that. I mean, the quote I saw, I just saw there, didn't say that. See, I don't know. Maybe I've gotten mixed up. The quote I can see here just says that once he's sorted out his contract issue, he's going to come. But I'm sure I saw something somewhere about the 15th of February. Maybe it was someone else reported that. It seems to be that what was actually said by Serdar Adalis is that once the contract issue is sorted, he's going to. Once that's been sorted, the guy's going to be announced. But one discrepancy that Serdar Adalis did say, he didn't say. Well, from what I can see in the quotes anyway, he didn't say that the guy is working for us behind the scenes, which is what a lot of people are saying. But who knows? Maybe he just has to keep that quiet so they don't get into any kind of legal issues with their current employer. That could be a problem, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
so
if they have a, I mean, I would imagine that a scout has some strong. I mean, obviously, I think they have to work. They have like certain exclusivity contracts, you would imagine, because otherwise you could be scouting a player for Dortmund and then giving that data to another club. You know, that's essentially company espionage, right? So, like, I think it's quite sensitive.
Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, man, at least it does seem like that the non-sporting director is on its way, which is something we can all be relieved about. So that's good.
More so, I think, even like for myself, where I was very suspicious about it during the election campaign because of the timing when the promise came and all that kind of stuff, or the promise is a big word, but and then, you know, he was gonna come before the elections, and then it was postponed until after the elections, and then the day after the election when he was supposed to come, we didn't hear about it at all. We didn't hear about it for 12 days now. Like, it's been 12 days since the elections, or since Serdar Adalis became president of Beşiktaş, and it's on the 12th day now where he's first talked about this again. So he spoke about it on the day of the election. So since then, it's been 12 days and he hasn't uttered a word about this. So my alarm bells were already going off. And it's almost like if you've been in a lot of relationships and your girlfriend cheats on you repeatedly, at a certain point you can't trust anymore, right? And that's the same how I think a lot of Beşiktaş fans feel right now after the Hasan Arat presidency, where it's very difficult to trust again And I think that's fine. I think we should be a little bit cynical, and we shouldn't be too quick to believe everything that's being said, because that's what got us into this mess in the first place. So I think we need to be holding these people accountable for the things they promise and the things they say they're going to do. And if they're not going to do it, we have to call them out on it, because otherwise, who's going to, right?
Yep, exactly.
Let's have a look, because there's a comment here, a pretty long comment from Jason. Before we even went online, he said, if we get Niko Kovac as a coach, I am Adali out. And I'll always like Kovac for what he did at Frankfurt, but he is so obviously a downgrade on Giovanni van Bronckhorst, so why even bother? Yeah, I mean, Niko Kovac, I can only go on reputation. I know he was very disliked at Bayern when he got the job there. Obviously, he did a good job at Frankfurt to earn that job. But at Bayern München, he was criticized heavily by the fans for essentially playing a type of football that wasn't for Bayern. And I think Beşiktaş fans have somewhat similar expectations to Bayern fans, where we expect offensive football, we expect to dominate games, we expect our team to grab the opponent by the scruff of the neck. And honestly, if you look at Niko Kovac, the first thing that's going to be used, one of the first terms that people are going to use to describe his coaching style, is pragmatic. And it's just another one of those coaches in a long line, unfortunately, that has been labeled as more of a pragmatist than somebody who is adventurous and wants to play offensive football. So Niko Kovac, that's not something that excites me in particular. I don't know how you feel about it, Kartal, but I think that would be dangerously close to a Fernando Santos appointment, in the sense that going into it, you already kind of know that this is not going to be a good fit.
Yeah, it's just like, it's clearly someone that's just been thought of because he managed Bayern Munich and won a Bundesliga title with them, and a DFB Pokal as well. Like
two DFB Pokal.
Yeah, I don't think. Maybe he won another one with Frankfurt or something. But I think
that's right. Yeah, he did win another one with Frankfurt. That's right. Yeah, he won the first cup in 30 years with Frankfurt. So the first trophy that Frankfurt won in 30 years' time, he won with them. And a lot of Frankfurt fans I saw on Reddit. One of our Beşiktaş friends from Reddit went on the Frankfurt Reddit and asked them their feelings about Niko Kovac, because obviously he's being linked with Beşiktaş. And most of those Frankfurt fans were very full of praise of Kovac, and they said he is essentially, he laid the groundwork for the subsequent success that Frankfurt have been having in the last couple of years under Olivier Glasner and stuff like that, by winning the Europa League and things like that. They hold Kovac responsible for laying the foundations for that. So that is positive. And maybe right now, that is what we need, in terms of we need somebody to build, maybe not somebody to necessarily already take us to the promised land, but I'm so tired of watching Beşiktaş play a brand of football that isn't exciting. I think we need excitement back before anything else. We need to get the fans back to the stadium, and I think it's easier to do that with exciting football, even if you sometimes squander points needlessly because of you're too adventurous. But I think another coach who's going to put the defensive organization first and keeping the zero, keeping a clean sheet first, and that's going to come at the expense of offensive play. I don't think that's something that's going to get the fans super excited and get the fans back into the stadium.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Like, it's just not smart at all, man. Like, this team needs an offensive coach. Like, that's what the fans want. The fans want to see offensive, entertaining football. Yeah, that's what I've been wanting to see for years. Kovac isn't that. He's a coach that focuses on defence first. he's been very successful with Frankfurt and Monaco. He failed at Wolfsburg. Okay, he won a Bundesliga title and a DFB Pokal with Bayern Munich. But he was quickly sacked. Why? Because he didn't play the right style of football for them. That's why he was sacked from there, and they didn't want to continue with him because the football wasn't what they're used to. It wasn't the Bayern way. And I think if it comes to Beşiktaş, like the squad's currently in a mess. It's not going to. That football is not going to galvanise this fan base and get them back out. Obviously they're behind the team regardless, but it's not going to get that fan base excited again. That type of football. I think we really need an offensive-minded coach that's going to excite people, even if the results aren't so good to start with. Something that's going to pull the people back to the stands, like every 2 weeks for our home games, like that exciting brand of football. When you know it's coming, it's Wednesday, there's a game on Saturday. You're excited. You're saying, "Oh, I wonder how many goals we're going to score this week, or how many
we're going to concede."
We need that excitement, and really, I think Kovac isn't the man to bring that excitement. I think that'd be a terrible hire. You'll have lost before you've even started if you hire Niko Kovac, in my opinion. And the same goes with some of the other names that we've been linked with as well.
Before we get to that list, Katla, I mean, I do think any coach that gets appointed, you need to give them a fair chance. And even if we have our reservations and if we have strong suspicions that that's not a right fit, I still think you have to give the coach a chance. We're going to have to get behind whoever they appoint. It's very well possible that in 2-3 months' time, we'll be saying, we knew this wasn't going to work out, but, similar to Santos. But of course, I think that Adale can't afford to make a mistake like that. I don't think that Niko Kovac would be as big of a mistake as Santos. I think you have more chances of succeeding because obviously this is a 53-year-old coach, relatively young. And he has goods. He has some goods. Goods.
Yeah, he's had some success.
He had success, and he's known as a hard worker, and he's known as somebody who demands a lot from his team and will get the team in physically in good condition and all that kind of stuff. So, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt if it would end up being Niko Kovac, but I think we should all go on record and say, look, I don't think this is the right appointment, but I'm going to get behind this guy because, that's what's the right thing to do. And then, of course, it's not like in 3 months, it's like, I told you so. No, not like that. We all want Beşiktaş to succeed. And if we do end up appointing someone like Niko Kovac, I think we all want to be wrong. We don't want to be right, because if we're right, that means we've been watching 3 months of bullshit again.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, one thing though, I think we all like to think Bayern München, we have the same expectations from our coach. But in reality, I think we also need to face the fact, like Bayern München, they have an identity, they have a brand of football they expect to play. Ajax have that. Real Madrid, although actually, Real Madrid, a lot of their success over the last 10, 15 years have come maybe playing a brand of football that isn't necessarily super Real Madrid, because I think, their back-to-back Champions Leagues came with very reactionary football, not necessarily dominant football. But I think, one of the things that I ranted about on the Patreon, on the VIP show, is that we really lack a sense of identity. In the sense that we have changed coaches since 2000 24 times. And only, I think, about 5 of those 24 appointments were actual coaches that are known for playing offensive, attractive football. And that's
it was a very good VIP episode. For those that haven't subscribed.
Well, thank you for saying that. I felt like I was going off on a tangent and ranting and maybe being a little bit incoherent at times. But I think Beşiktaş really, really lack that. Like, we keep going for these coaches that aren't the right profile. And it's not just the foreign coaches, it's also the domestic coaches. For example, Mustafa Denizli is a pragmatist. Ertuğrul Sağlam, he's not. I mean, I would say he's a pragmatist, you know. Riza Çalınbay is a pragmatist. Who else have we had? You know, like, those types of Turks, they're not Beşiktaş. I know Riza Çalınbay is a Beşiktaş legend. And I know Ertuğrul Sağlam could be considered a legend. And Mustafa Denizli is a Turkish football coaching legend. But these are all coaches that don't necessarily go for offensive football. And I think if you look at the last 25 years, there's only Vicente Del Bosque, Bernd Schuster, Sergen Yalcin, arguably Mircea Lucescu. I say arguably. Back then, I would like to say that he played an attractive brand of football. I think the first season he played I think spent at least the first 6 months of the season focusing on keeping a clean sheet. A lot. And his football got better as he went on. Like the second half of the 2002-2003 season, I think we started playing a lot better than 2003-2004. First half of the season, we were playing amazing football. But that's something that gradually progressed. Like whereas with like Sergen, with Schuster, you could immediately see they want to play offensive football. That's a big problem. Like if you look at the last couple of years, Valeria Ismail, Fernando Santos, who else have we had? Giovanni van Bronckhorst. Like Giovanni van Bronckhorst, if one of the first thing people describe him as is pragmatic. Not overly so, but he is somebody that puts a lot of emphasis on that, on the defensive aspect of the game and all that kind of stuff. So like we keep going for these types of coaches, and why do we do that? Like we need to stop doing that. Like I would just like to see Beşiktaş go for somebody like Peter Bos, who is currently at PSV, but of course before he started winning titles. Peter Bos was before PSV now. I feel like he was the type of coach that was known for being a little bit of a kamikaze coach. Like he coached at Leverkusen, he coached at Lyon, he played some great football, but he didn't win anything there. But he was known for attractive football. And I feel like Beşiktaş just need that for a while. Just maybe we're not going to win the championship. Maybe we won't even win like a cup or anything. But at least people will be entertained. And yeah, I really think the fandom needs that right now. I don't think the only way to create more fans, to get kids to come to the stadium, I don't think the only way to do that is a success. I also think that just playing entertaining football is a good way to do that. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, I agree, man, fully. I mean, Shell Ganesh, when he first came, even like he was very attacking, and that 15-16
yes.
Team was the best Beşiktaş team that I remember. Obviously, I was too young when, like, for the 02-03 season. So, like, in terms of a season I could fully comprehend at the time, the 15-16 Beşiktaş was the best. But even when he came back the second time, he was more pragmatic.
Yeah.
But the first time he was attacking. We played probably the best football we've played in. Well, maybe alongside that, stint with Lucescu, the best football we've played in the 21st century. But apart from like a few of the appointments, you're right, a lot have been pragmatists. I think that is definitely a pattern we need to break, because it doesn't go along with like really the tradition and the values of the club, and even the nickname. Like, for example, Beşiktaş in the early 90s when we were in our best, we were the team that scored 4 goals. Like, what was it? The little chant was 1, 2, or 3 goals isn't enough. We need 4, 5, or 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Type of team Beşiktaş was.
Yeah.
You know, we broke the record for the like the most goals, like the biggest winnings.
Yeah. The biggest win, 10-0 against Adana Demirspor.
Yeah, even like my dad, who was like a teenager at that time, in the early 90s, it was like going into his 20s as well, late teenager or early 20s. Like he said, like we'd even beat Galatasaray. Sorry, he said we always struggled against Galatasaray. Like we never comfortably beat them all the time. Obviously, at our best we did. It was still always a tussle, but when we were at our best, we were even putting 3-4 past far quite often. That's the type of team we were.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we
obviously
need,
football has changed, and there's financially we are behind on our rivals, so it's more difficult now to achieve that, I think. But yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what we used to be known as. We used to have an identity, and I think that identity, especially in like the 2000s, got watered down or got lost even. Because like I said, like, and I even forgot about Şenol Güneş now. I did actually mention him in my rant, and I did say, on the Patreon episode, and I did actually highlight that like the first time Şenol Güneş came, he was an offensive coach. Second time he came, he was a pragmatist. And then I even forgot the biggest of them all, Abdullah Avcı, what a pragmatist he was or still is. Like all these coaching appointments are appointments that go against the DNA of the club, but we have to go back a long time for that DNA because we've been doing it for 20 years. We've been making the wrong coaching appointment after the wrong coaching appointment. The most stable time in the last 25 years that we've had is the stint between 2013 and 2019 when we had Slaven Bilic going into Şenol Güneş 1. Because Slaven Bilic was playing an offensive brand of football, an exciting offensive brand of football, and Şenol Güneş continued that. And
I think he was a bit more balanced under Bilic rather than kind of full attack, but we still played some nice football. But that was a nice evolution where, like, Bilic was still probably one of the coaches that's had displayed better football in the last 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And then for that to lead into Şenol Güneş as well, like it was a good continuation because Bilic set the foundations and Şenol Güneş just made it better and then took the team forward. Yeah. And that's what we need, man. We need some continuity. We need some
continuity. Yeah.
That's it. I couldn't say it there for some reason. I couldn't get that word out of my mouth. But yeah, we need some continuity.
Exactly.
We need to have a coach, even if it's not the best coach, but see if a coach that has the right ideas that is going to get the team playing the way you want to play. See, even if you can set that foundation down for a year or 2 years, and then when you're ready to win something, you can go and get someone that's better. Because one of our biggest problems just now in attracting our coaches, see any self-valuing coach, why would they want to come to Beşiktaş when we keep changing the coach all the time?
Yeah, and when the team is in a dismal state, there's not really... It's not a present to come into this locker room right now. I think with the state it's in, it's a very difficult job, and I think every self-respecting coach who does a little bit of research, who watches some of our games, will come to that conclusion. And I think you either need to throw a lot of money at them, or they need to be very desperate. Like Fernando Santos, I think Fernando Santos was desperate for a job, and that's why that happened. But like if you look at some of the names being mentioned in the media right now, Roger Schmidt, for example, I think that's somebody that we would all be very excited about. But this is not a man that's desperate for the Beşiktaş job,
Yeah.
And the only way to get somebody like that is to probably throw a lot of money at him and to give him certain guarantees and promises. And I don't know.
Guarantees.
Exactly. Before we get to some more speculation on the coach, let's get to some comments here, though, Kartal. Carlitos said, I do know the worst Karius, so obviously talking about our goalkeepers. I actually like Karius, man, but yeah, he also had some mistakes in him, unfortunately. Another comment from Carlito, aka Ural, who's been our guest, of course, on our pre-election episode. Hopefully we'll have him on again in the future. The scout can't be already working for Beşiktaş. Surely they talked about vision, style, and even some examples of player names, for instance. But already working for Beşiktaş is bullshit. The guy will have a non-compete. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about as well. Like, you would expect somebody like that to have a non-compete clause. Especially as long as your contract is running. So if he is doing any work, it is definitely in an unofficial capacity. And yeah, I think it's very, I don't know, feels a little risky what mean, I understand if the guy is still under contract that he can be named and stuff like that, but it's a weird story. Grey Wolf says, we need to get a coach that was not fired. That's what keeps getting us in trouble. We need to get a successful coach, not a failed one. Yeah, I don't agree with that, man. I'm sorry, but like every coach, except for Pep Guardiola, has gotten fired at one point or another. Football is very much a game of one man's trash is another man's treasure. That goes for coaches, that goes for football players. The only way you sign a football player is either because a team wants to sell him, or because you have a lot of money to pry them away, or because the guy is out of contract. But most of the time when you're usually in a situation when contracts expire. Not always, like for example with Rafa, Benfica definitely wanted to keep him. But like for example, João Mário, yeah, that's a guy that Benfica wanted to get rid of. Dembaba was a guy Chelsea wanted to get rid of. Mario Gomez was a guy that Fiorentina desperately wanted off their books. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you get a dud. Sometimes you get a treasure, you know? That's just the way football works. I don't think that's a reasonable or rational stance to take to say, oh, we can't take a coach that has been fired somewhere. I mean, Mircea Lucescu was fired at Galatasaray after winning the championship.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Back-to-back titles for him, by the way, back then. And, you know, I mean, Şenol Güneş, yeah, he wasn't fired from Bursa, but... I mean, there's so many examples of good coaches that got fired somewhere and then they were successful somewhere else. So I don't think that's a criteria. If we're going to add that criteria to our list, I don't think we're going to be signing anyone because if we if we impose that on ourselves, I think we'll be looking for a very long time. Do you agree, Cartel?
Yeah, I mean, either needs to be someone's first job or it needs to be Guardiola.
Yeah. Yeah.
Considering we're not getting Guardiola, it has to be someone's first job. So I disagree with that. Like every coach, almost every coach has been sacked at some point. So I just don't think that's something that we can aim for, especially in our current situation. It's not as if we are like this brilliant team, man, that always successful, and we're going to have to get a coach that's always successful. Like you can get a coach that's had success. Like had some sort of success maybe in everywhere he's been, and maybe he's fallen off after a certain time. But you're never going to get a coach to Beşiktaş, an experienced one anyway, that's never had any valleys in their career.
Yeah. Like something that you could say is maybe like a coach that hasn't coached for like 2-3 years. Maybe you want to stay away from that. I think that's more reasonable. Okay. But like, yeah, somebody who recently got fired. Yeah, I mean... It's also not always the coach's fault. I mean, often it isn't the coach's fault. You know, usually it's an issue from the club, and it trickles down. You know, bad transfers, bad money issues, or whatever. Like it's not always the coach's fault. Like sometimes it is, but sometimes often it isn't as well. Another comment from our good friend Carlito. Do you guys think? This scout is the same name Adale was referring to just before the elections, or is this already plan B or C, considering the issues and the deal not being finalized yet? I think there's multiple options here, because if you'll remember, back then he said it's somebody who works in Germany but isn't German, and now, for example, Siegbert, he's German. So
the other guy.
Huh?
So is the other guy as well.
Yeah.
Mislintat.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have to wait and see who it turns out to be. But if the guy is German, then obviously either Adale was purposely lying in order for this person's name not to leak, and this person not getting in trouble with his club, for example. That's perfectly possible, and I think perfectly reasonable. Or it's somebody, or he was telling the truth back then, and now it's option B or C or D. I don't think we'll ever really know, because obviously Adala won't say that. Hopefully, I mean, if this turns out being like option C or D, hopefully Adala doesn't come out and say that, because I mean that would be kind of disrespectful to the person, I think. How do you feel about the cartel?
I mean, we're never really going to know, man, so I don't think there's that much point in speculating. It could be either of what you said. Either he's just said that to kind of shift the attention elsewhere so people aren't looking at who it really is, or, as Carlito says, maybe we are on an option B or C or D now. We'll never know, so there's not too much point in speculating about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Unless obviously the guy Adali comes out and says it, like, and at that point it wouldn't be speculating; it would be fact.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't do that, because that would be a little bit of a you say in you shall moment there. Jason says 2, one with Bayern and one with Frankfurt. That's referring to the DFB podcast that Niko Kovac has won. Grey Wolf says, I do think Adala taking his time in finding a coach is the right approach. We do need a long-term coach. Yeah, on one end I agree with that, but on the other end, Cartel, he's had 6 weeks now to prepare. You know, he's had a full month to prepare for his potential presidency, and now he's had almost 2 weeks since he's been president. I agree that this is not a decision that should be rushed. This is not a decision that should be that we should do out of a huff or out of panic or because of pressure from social media. However, he should have had somebody lined up already. Giovanni van Bronckhorst was fired quite a while ago. So, yeah, I know his plan A was Sergen, but...
Yeah, what happened to BC?
Yeah, he didn't Adala say explicitly that he had backup plans?
I think he did say that, yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did. Obviously, I can't say 100% sure because there's no way I can remember every quote, but I'm pretty sure he did say that. I think he definitely did say we had backup plans, but I don't know about the whole A, B, C, D, and E quote that Sinan mentioned the other day. Not entirely sure about that, but I'm sure he did say about the backup plan. So that just shows you that he was blowing smoke up our asses, man.
Yeah, do you consider having a list of names that you will contact in the case that your first plan doesn't work out? Do you consider that having a plan, or is that just having a list?
That's not a plan, that's an idea. A plan is if there's something concrete there, which clearly there's not.
I agree. It's also part of my hour-long rant midweek on Patreon. Patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast if you want to listen to me rant more frequently. Let's see. Next one is from Carlito. Normally I would agree, but the competition continues at the moment, or he needs to come out and say this season is done, but nothing having a plan while he stated the opposite during elections is bad. That's of course in reaction to what Grey Wolf said, so I think Carlito is on the same page as us. Let's say what...
There's something I want to say, man. I forgot to say it.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Something about taking your time. I think, see, if you've been elected to be the president of the club, ideally we should have people that can make quick decisions, but have them be the right decisions. So obviously, if ultimately it's taking you a long time, but it's the right decision, even the right decision can be the wrong decision if it's taking too long and it's too long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry,
are you get some water?
That's the problem. The water is what's went down the wrong drain there.
I see. Down the wrong pipe.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree
but
with you.
that's very important. I think we need people that can make quick, right decisions. That's why they're there. They're there to do that. If you make the right decision, but it takes you 6 months, like, it's too late at that point, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Ömer Gunal says, no proper coach A successful coach is coming to us right now. Haha. Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, right? To get somebody that is the right profile, successful. Yeah, it's very tough, man. Like if you have and on top of that, you're on a shoestring budget supposedly. It's not easy. Like, and that's how you end up with wrong decisions. Because that's also how we ended up with Fernando Santos last season, I think, because the bar of expectations was set really high. I think Serdar Adala did that as well. He set the expectations high because, his entire campaign was about how he would get things done and how he would do things properly and differently, and how he would make sure, he'd bring in a world-class scout and he'd bring in this and this. And I don't think he's ever said, like, I'll bring in a world-class coach or anything along those lines. But I mean, regardless of whether you say that exactly or you say, I'm going to make the right decisions, that still puts the bar high, I think. Because, I mean, maybe given our economical situation right now, the right decision isn't a foreign coach, but for example, Chada Shatan. Maybe he's the right choice right now because he's relatively affordable. He plays he's not a pragmatist. I wouldn't call him that at all. He's innovative. He's young. I think then you need to maybe set your sights a little bit lower, with all due respect for Çağdaş, and you just go with the best Turkish option. So that's either Çağdaş or Arda or Ilan Palut maybe. You just set your bar a little lower, because if you want to bring in a foreign coach, then it's probably going to be somebody that's already had success prior. Otherwise, they're going to come under a lot of scrutiny really early on. Look, I'm not against bringing in somebody that's maybe a little bit under the radar. I'd much rather have that than some old has-been dinosaur that hasn't coached a club team in 15 years.
Exactly.
But it's tough.
We all know who's been my potential candidate for over a year now, under the radar.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that actually.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Muscat, even last winter when we were looking for a coach when Hassan had our first game, I suggested him. The only reason, I'm not this football guru, man, that knows all this stuff. It's just, I'm not going to claim to be something that I'm not. The reason I know who this guy is because obviously Ange Postecoglou worked for Celtic for 2 years, was very successful. And before Rangers went with someone that Can's very familiar with, Philippe Clement. Before they went with him, they were linked with this guy called Kevin Muscat. And the reason why Rangers were looking at this guy, well, he was a former player of theirs as well. That's one thing. But another thing that was very key as well was there was the idea of replicating what Celtic done with Ange. And the reason behind that is because Kevin Muscat is also Australian like Ange, and Kevin Muscat was Ange's assistant coach. And Kevin Muscat has a very, very, very similar idea of how he wants to play as Ange, which is very, very attacking focused, high press, like just the type of stuff we want to see. Like Ange Postecoglou is known as playing some of the most entertaining football in Europe just now in Tottenham.
So what you're saying then, Kartal, is that you didn't just steal this idea from a guy who tweeted you.
I mean, I saw it from Rangers. I didn't see anyone else say, "Oh, we should bring this guy to Beşiktaş." I think I was probably the first person in the world that said that. Maybe not, but probably.
You were definitely saying it before certain people were.
Yeah. Before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for a year that it's a potential candidate and something that should be looked at. So this guy was Ange's assistant, went to Ange's old team in Japan after Ange went to Celtic, won a championship with them. Now he's in China. He had his first season in China as well, absolutely destroyed the Chinese league, scoring crazy amounts of goals in a lot of the games. won the league comfortably. I don't know how comfortably he won it actually, but I know that he won it in quite emphatic fashion. Maybe it was quite tight, but let me have a look. Because I don't want to be saying that and then it's wrong. Yeah, so in fact, they only won it by a point, which isn't emphatic, but they only dropped points in 5 games all season. 3 draws, 2 losses. That's a very impressive record.
That just means that number 2 had a very good season as well.
Yeah, exactly. So they played some very good football. It was tight. Like anything I've read about this guy, especially not so much about his stint in Australia. I think he was a bit more defensive there. But see, since he's went to like Japan and China, he's really innovated and starting just kind of doing it like Ange does. People are saying that he's got a very similar style to Ange, and it's just very exciting football. He's won trophies in Japan and China. So I think this would get a lot of hate in Turkey because he's played, he's coached in small leagues. But Celtic, it was the same when Ange came to Celtic. People were like, who's this guy? Like, why are we bringing a guy that's been successful in Asia? But the guy is probably the best coach Celtic have had since maybe like Martin O'Neill.
I mean, look at Canada, for example. Their coach, I forget his name right now, but he was the women's team's coach before he became the men's team's coach, and he brought them to their first World Cup since 1986. So, I mean, it's not because people come out of a more obscure league or they come out of women's football or whatever. That doesn't mean that these aren't really, really good professionals. Now, I do think one problem with this Kevin Muscat is, for me, a big question mark would be, how does he cope under pressure? Because,
yeah, of course,
you know that. The pressure of the Turkish league, the pressure of Beşiktaş in particular, the pressure of our fans, that is something unique in world football. I don't think there's a lot of places in football where where expectations are that high as in the big 3 in Turkey. I think it's among the most destructive forms of pressure in football there is. And yeah, that's a question mark. But that doesn't mean, of course, clearly Kevin Muscat is somebody who is a out-and-out great professional that would probably do a good job. So he's definitely an interesting profile. Problem is, I don't see us going for someone like that.
I don't either.
But maybe, you know, with this sporting director, not sporting director, maybe this person is a little bit more edgy and is willing to take a risk. And maybe Serdal Adalı sees that, look, we can't bring a top coach, but what we can do, but what we can do is bring a coach that's on the cusp and that's maybe going to be a great coach in 5 years.
Yeah,
I think that's the way you have to go when you're Celtic, when you're Rangers, when you're Anderlecht, Club Brugge, when you're Beşiktaş, when you're those types of clubs. You can't bring Ange Postecoglou. You can't bring Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola or even a Vincent Kompany at the moment. I'm not gonna say he's a top coach, but like, you can't bring these guys because first and foremost they're going to be super expensive, and second, they're not gonna want to come to Turkey, especially not to come to Turkey to play to coach a team that's in the shape we're in. So really, you have to look for talent, just like in football. Like we always say, like, if we want to compete with Fenerbahce and Galatasaray, we have less money. We have to be smart about our transfers. That's the same way about your coaching appointments. You have to be smart about it, and you have to take a little bit of risk. And no, I don't mean financial risk. I mean a risk in, we're going to bank on potential and we're going to bank on talent. And the same thing is true for a coach. I think you need to be willing to take that risk. The problem in Turkey is that we always go for certainties. And the problem with going for certainties is you very rarely get an actual certainty. Most of the time you get players that are over the hill. You get coaches that are over the hill. Unmotivated, not hungry. Goes for both coaches and players. And that's what you end up with. And that's the difference when you go for young talent, whether it's a coach or it's a player. Those people are hungrier for success. They wanna take that next step in their career still. And maybe right now Beşiktaş are in a place where we don't need to see ourselves as the end station, the last station the train is going to end in. We need to see ourselves as a jumping off point for these people. But if Beşiktaş can become that, look, Celtic, you talk about Celtic all the time. And the thing with Celtic,
closest example to me, that's why that's why I hear of what happens there.
But what is Celtic? Celtic is a jumping off point. It's a place where players can go and they can find their way into the top 5 leagues in Europe, mostly the Premier League. Same thing is true for their coaches. Look at Steven Gerrard. He used Rangers as a jumping off point to go to the Premier League. And that's what Beşiktaş should probably aspire to become.
Exactly. Yeah, because Ange Postecoglou, Celtic have made him Ange Postecoglou now. You need to go and find the next one. And the next one, who's more likely to be the best one than the guy that learned under him and plays that has the same playing style and has been very successful as well implementing that, maybe in obscure leagues, but still very successful in playing that very attacking style. So I think Muscat would be someone that'd be great to have a look at. I've been saying it for a year now, so I definitely think we need, instead of going for a sure, what was a sure thing, and for the most part, if we're getting them, they'll be on the decline. We need to go and look at the next one. Who's going to be the next great coach, and we can launch them, and then in a couple of years, send them over to a top 5 league, and then bring in the next guy. We need to focus that. But
plus, you become a more attractive club as well because of that, because you made it possible for example, Muscat to go to the Premier League, and if you can, then the next guy is going to be a lot more interested in potentially coming to your club because you have proven now that you can facilitate a move up in their careers. The same thing is true for players. I say this all the time, Cartel and I have had many discussions about it because he says, well, look, Celtic brought this guy for 1.5 million and that guy for 2 million and 3 million, and why can they bring in these young players under the radar and have them flourish and then sell them for a nice profit for 20 million or whatever? And he always says, like, why can't we do that? And my argument against that is, well, the reason is because these players, that they are very interested in going to a club like Celtic because they know Celtic is a jumping off point. That's also why clubs like Ajax have a much easier time convincing talents to come to their club, because Ajax is the breeding ground of talent in Europe, and lots of, if you do well in Ajax, everyone's watching you. But Beşiktaş don't have that reputation, so for us it's going to be a lot more difficult. We have to lure talented players by paying them too much money. And Ajax, Celtic, Anderlecht, Brugge, those clubs, they can lure these players because they know that this is a good opportunity for them to go on in their careers. And we need to change that narrative. We need to change how we are viewed in the world. Because we can't keep paying ridiculous wages for players. And it doesn't mean you can't have star players. Look at Club Brugge, for example, and Ajax, and like they also bring in players. Like, you can have a Rafa Silva, but you can't have 11 Rafa Silvas. You need to surround Rafa Silva with young, energetic players.
Yeah.
Sinan is in the comments, by the way, and he says, watching in between lessons, fellas, my source tells me the German scout guy is celebrating Bandhu homecoming day in Bangladesh. He'll arrive tomorrow or Sunday. Beyond the 2 weeks he's had in his office, surely he had plenty of time to do all the planning as a candidate / in the build up to the election. I think it's a fair point. Let's see. Mario says, yo, sorry I'm late. Hey Mario, nice to have you here, bro. And then Mario says, how's it going, Black Eagles? We're good. I hope you're doing fine as well, Mario. Atuljan's here as well. He says, man, not Niko Kovac in the thumbnail. That is Niko Kovac and Roger Schmidt, somebody else who we talked about. Ömer says, the bonus of Ange's system is that he knows the Asian market. He found a ton of gems for peanuts. Yeah, but that's the same thing with if you bring in somebody like Muscat, who's worked in Japan and now China. I'm sure he could bring in a couple of gems as well. I mean, the Asian market is relatively untapped, and you can get talented players there for a fraction that you would pay for them here. So, I mean, yeah, I think Beşiktaş should look more into that. Look at how successful Fenerbahce was with Kim Min-jae. Like, why can't we find ourselves somebody like that? Mario Vargas says, diamonds in the rough, so to speak. Yeah, just like Aladdin. And Grey Wolf says, I know who the sporting director is. It's Jurgen Klopp. Didn't Jurgen Klopp take the sporting director job at Red Bull Leipzig or something? Or at Red Bull in general? I think he took that sort of a role there.
He's the global director.
Yeah.
Of the Red Bull group.
Yeah.
And Umar Gunala said Celtic has a few Japanese players that Ange brought, and now they're all worth 15 to 35 million. That's very true, man. I think the only one that didn't really work out was but Hatate, Kyogo, Maeda. These guys were all huge successes, man. And they're all worth exactly 15 to 35 million. And Muscat as well, from his time playing in Japan, coaching in Japan and China and winning trophies there. And the fact that he worked with Ange before, he knows that market just as well as Ange. So he could tap into that as well. Maybe you could say you don't know for sure if his eye for talent's the same. That's certainly to be found out. Once he comes to Europe and wherever he goes, if he starts making these signings, we'll soon find out if he's got that same eye for talent as Ange. But he's definitely just as successful as Ange was over there with a similar style. So who's not to say he couldn't implement that in Europe and do it successfully like Ange has? You never know, man. You never know how it's going to translate. Maybe he's not going to translate as well as Ange, but someone needs to take a chance to find out. You
need to take a risk. That's what we're saying.
I'd be quite happy if it was us.
So what's the bigger risk? Paying Niko Kovac probably 2.5-3 million. And you know, like, because that's the thing with Niko Kovac, like, how expensive is he gonna be? Like, one of the rumors, for example, with Roger Schmidt is first, he doesn't want to come in midway to the season, which a lot of the good coaches that are available right now, that's probably gonna be their stance. Like, no, we don't want to come mid-season. And other than that, like, supposedly his wage demands are ridiculously high, 6 million supposedly. I don't know what. Yeah.
What I find quite interesting, Can, is Mustafa Korkusu's the Beşiktaş reporter from TRT's acting as if Schmidt's still kind of on, whereas Sajan Dikbe and Fouad Gounaid are saying it's not going to happen. So it's quite funny how there is like a bit of a contradiction between the different reporters there. Yeah. Some saying it's not happening, he doesn't want to come. Others saying he's top of the list and stuff like that. Murat Özens just came out and said that Schmidt's the top of the list. And if Schmidt doesn't come, the number 2 is Niko Kovac. But see, that's flawed. But see if this is true, obviously it could be all BS. But see, in a place where Roger Schmidt's your first option, the Kovac can't be number 2.
Yeah, how is that possible? Like, you have, on one side, you have somebody who's known for playing offensive football with Roger Schmidt, and then on the other side, you have a coach who's known to being a pragmatist. So, like,
how does that make any sense? Like, where's the rationale and the thought process and the idea of what you want? It's clearly just random names, if that's true. Like,
feels like
a lot would be, say, I don't know, Ange Postecoglou, Schmidt, Muscat, and then you've got 3 different levels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of the similar style of coach. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's say if you say Roger Schmidt, Niko Kovac, Ibrahim Zunis, that makes no sense.
Oh, by the way, on the bright side, apparently it's Margaret Thatcher Day in the Falkland Islands, according to Sinan right now. So he had to look up a day. So it was either the Bangladeshi holiday or Margaret Thatcher Day. So he went with the Bangladeshi holiday, he says. And Mario says, wait, you don't celebrate Margaret Thatcher Day? Graywell says, imagine Nuri gets sacked and Beşiktaş hires him. Yeah, I mean, I'd be up for that. But again, I think Nuri is not necessarily a coach that is playing super offensive football. Let's have a talk about this list, Kartal, the names that have been mentioned most over the last week or so. I think Roger Schmidt and Niko Kovac are probably some of the most mentioned ones. Razvan Lucescu is another one. Which other names are there on that list?
So we'll go Roger Schmidt, which if he was to come, I'd be very excited, man.
Yeah.
I'd be very, very excited.
Yeah.
Kovac. See, again, like Schmidt, Kovac, like these guys should be in the same list. They're two completely different coaches. After that is Lucescu, who we've all said we really think he'd be the best fit. He's a more of a maybe balanced coach in terms of his play style from what we've read, but he's very successful in Greece, and Greece is very similar to Turkey, the kind of environment, so that's why we think he'd be an ideal fit. So he's probably who we think would be the best fit, but then they're saying that there's going to be some sort of panel gathering about his ban. If that ban goes through, apparently they're saying he could now leave. It is possible. Last week they said it wouldn't happen. Now they're saying there's a chance. So let's just wait and see there. Although I do hope we're not waiting for ages and then he says no anyway. Like that'd be a disaster.
Yeah.
And we've got Edin Terzic, who's already declined us. Let's see. We've got Slaven Bilic, who we all maybe wouldn't excite us that much, but we've all said would be open to. Paulo Fonseca. I think I was okay to this name in the summer because he'd done fairly well with Lille, but he had the disaster of a time with AC Milan.
Yeah, just got sacked and replaced by my number one, the guy I've been touting for ages, Sergio Conceição, and who in his first 2 official games beat both Juventus and Inter to win the Supercoppa Italiana.
Yeah, so we're not really keen on that. Graham Potter, that's not happening anymore. He's been announced by West Ham.
Yeah.
Bo Svensson. Now, Bo Svensson, I'm no football guru, guys. So I'm not going to say I know these guys in and out, but from what I've read, Bo Svensson seems to be just like a better version of Valérien Ismaël, which I'm not interested in.
No, me neither.
Okay, he's done a good job with Mainz, but in the past, then he went to Union Berlin later on. He didn't do well there. He got sacked pretty quickly. I think this guy, he done a good job with Mainz, kind of has kept them up and then made them a mid-table team in Germany, which normally they're kind of near the bottom, so obviously done a good job. But he's a coach that's normally played that underdog brand of football, 3 at the back, normally gives the ball to opponent. It's not what we are looking for.
The question is, of course, sometimes some managers are perfectly capable of adjusting their style of play depending on the material they have available, the kind of club they're playing for. Like, you can't always judge a coach based on that, but it's risky, and I think that's an unnecessary risk.
Yeah, definitely. Marcus Gisdol, short-term coach. Again, he's more of an underdog style coach, not the style of play we want. But maybe for 6 months to get the team working hard, who knows? But he's not my pick.
Yeah, if it's a 6-month contract till the end of the season. And you know what? I think of all the names on this list, that this is, by the way, this is the guy that came into Sivasspor last season when they had a dreadful start. They were bottom of the table, and he turned it around completely for them. And you could argue, laid the groundwork now for Thomas Reis to continue building on that and have the great run they're having right now. So Marcus Gisdol definitely had a part in that. So if it was for 6 months, I think this is one of the few names on that list that would be willing and open to that, because it seems like, judging by his career, that he is somebody who, kind of like a European or a German version of Yilmaz Vural, somebody that goes into clubs that are in a precarious position in their respective leagues, turns things around and then moves on. So, if he'd be willing to come in for 6 months, I'd be open to that idea. But I saw a quote from Ali Ece, for example, who said, well, I see Thomas Reis being mentioned with the Beşiktaş job, but then there's Marcus Gisdol, who's a much better option or a much better coach. I just think to myself, based on what?
Yeah, exactly. Gisdall's more of he's more of a counter-attack coach, high press coach. He's not like a play with the ball. Like the football I saw Samson play against us with Thomas Rice is the football that we actually want to play. So if I was to pick one of the two, I'd pick Thomas Rice. But Gisdall short term maybe could do a job, but again, it's not really the style we're looking for. Vladimir Ivic, he's been very successful in Israel.
Yeah, great.
Done fairly decent other places, but I really don't think being successful in Israel is much of a bar to work off of. So I'm not too keen on that.
But that is completely that's like you're not being consistent there, because on one hand you want a coach that's been successful in Japan and China, and on one hand you're dismissing somebody for being successful in Israel. I agree with you, by the way. I agree with you, but like it's funny how that works. Like where we're like, yeah, somebody who's been successful in Japan, let's go, but somebody who's been successful in Israel, ooh, I don't know about that.
I think another part of it, can as well, is this guy is known as being defence first as well. And then you've got Muscat, who plays that very high energy attacking brand of football. That he's kind of learned, worked on. Maybe he's developed that style together with Postecoglou that's made that transition to bigger teams, and it's worked out really well for him. So can you really say the same about Vladimir Ivic? Not really, man. And it's more the defence first. So that's more of a reason probably than what Israel. But yeah, you're right. The way I phrased that, it was a bit hypocritical.
I just, I'm playing the audience for a second there,
The next one's Allegri. What do you think of that one, Kat?
I mean, that's another pragmatist, right? That's somebody who's been extremely successful with Juventus in the past. Second stint was less successful. This is somebody who he's won a lot. He's clearly somebody who can work under pressure and all that. But it's a pragmatist. It's again somebody who's, and you know what? That's the thing with Italian football. Italian football is different. Simone Inzaghi, for example, is a very anti-Italian coach. He's a new generation of Italian coaches who puts a lot more emphasis on attacking football. But when you think about Italian football, you think Catenaccio, you think defense first, very tough to score against, tactically sound, very difficult league. And that's, Max Allegri is a typical, very successful Italian coach. And on one hand, I think an Italian coach, because of the similarities culturally and all that, I think an Italian coach could come into Turkey and do well. In fact, I think that if you were to compare the Turkish league to any league in Europe, or to a top 5 league, I think the closest in similarities would be the Italian league. Not so much because the Turkish league is a high standing tactically, but the Turkish league is also very much, they don't really care about nice football. Like, they care about results, obviously, and very many teams that you play against, they'll play in a low block, all that kind of stuff. I think with a Max Allegri, yes, he's a pragmatist, but he's also somebody who knows how to deal and how to unlock a low block, because he's used to that from Italy. So I'm not a proponent of it necessarily, because I want to see exciting football, but I don't think it's the same as with Giovanni van Bronckhorst, for example, who we knew going in. Yeah, he struggles with low blocks, he struggles with unlocking teams like that. Niko Kovac is somebody who's been said to similar, they say similar things about, like, he struggles to unlock low blocks and defensive sides. Max Allegri, I don't think he'll struggle with that. The brand of football we'll be playing might not be super exciting, but you would imagine.
Yeah, I'm not keen on it, man.
Me neither. But it's different, I think. He's a pragmatist, but he's also a pragmatist that knows what it takes to win football matches against teams that are going to park the bus. If that makes sense.
Maybe you could compare him to Mourinho in a way.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. Next one, I mean, to be fair, I think this is just all people. There's not been any serious reports, but Guti, how would you think about that? Feel about that one, Guti Hernandez? Obviously, a former player.
Yeah, for 6 months, again, that's a 6-month solution then. But then you have to wonder, is he more?
He's not. It's been a few years since he's coached.
Yeah, I think after he coached, he was the assistant to Chanel. I think he went to Malaga for 6 months, and I think after that he hasn't coached. So I think he's been inactive for multiple years now.
So I'm keen on it
I'm not
because
keen,
of that.
Yeah, me neither. The romantic in me would say, yeah, sure, 6 months, let's give him a shot. You never know. I mean, obviously Guti, and this is something Ilham Mansız actually said this. He said, when asked like who would you pick as the next Beşiktaş coach, he came out and he said, I think he tweeted this. He responded on a poll or something. He said Guti, and then he went in depth a little bit because he said, well, for the time I worked under Şenol Güneş with him, he is somebody that is very astute, very has a keen mind for football. I just see a really good coach in him. And you know what? I mean, that to me is kind of I find that's intriguing. I'll put it that way. But yeah, it's possible that you could bring him in, and maybe Malaga was the wrong club for him. They didn't have. Sometimes you have coaches like who, like this Bo Larsson, for example. Maybe you have coaches like Valeria Ismail who are made for smaller teams, who aren't big club coaches. But sometimes you have the other way around as well, where a coach is more a big club coach and they don't really know how to work in a small club environment, and Malaga isn't exactly Real Madrid. So there's
it's not even Malaga, it's UD Almeria, so it's an even smaller.
There you go. I thought it was Malaga for some reason. So Almeria, yeah. I mean, so the question is, maybe there's that possibility there. It's intriguing. I don't think it'll happen. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be against it, I guess, for 6 months maybe. I think it would be probably more exciting than Serra Toprak-Tepe, but then you also run the risk that it's just the same thing. So, I don't know. I think we need a good solution. But if we can't find a good solution, if we can't hire a good coach, then I think it's much better to go with Guti or with Gisdol for 6 months and wait until the summer to then try and bring in a good coach, rather than now sign the wrong person on potentially a relatively long-term deal that could end up costing you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Any more names?
Yeah, so the next one is a guy that supposedly we're not keen on, but his agent has said that he'd like to come and work for Beşiktaş, Felix Magath.
Oh, Felix Magath, okay.
Supposedly he's a coach that's very interested in making the team work hard, getting players sick after training.
He's a taskmaster, man. He's a taskmaster. The players will suffer tremendously for about 4 to 5 weeks, and then they start boycotting him.
I mean, I had a look at this guy's resume. Yeah, he was successful in the past, but he's not done anything in about 14 years.
Yeah. Well, Felix Magath was a big coach in the 2000s. Wasn't he coaching Leverkusen or something? And
he was even bad coach at one point.
I mean, he was a great coach back then, but yeah, this is Fernando Santos 2.0.
Yeah, he's the same age as Santos as well, so... in fact, he's a year younger actually, but he looks better than Santos does. Did you not think Santos looked like senile when he came?
No, I senile. No, I just think he looked like a grumpy old man. But no, I wouldn't say that.
Done the cartel benches and his hands were like way down low, as if he couldn't lift his arms up high.
Maybe he had what's it called? What do you call that? Arthrosis or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're senile.
The next one's Montella.
No, stay away.
I mean, why would you ever go for Montella, man? He's literally the reason why your young gem, man, is in his current state. Ever since that incident happened with Montelli, he's not been the same. So, no, you need to stay away from that.
Yeah.
Chad Turan,
Yeah,
I'd be open to.
Yeah, I'd be open for Chalice for sure. Yeah.
Turan, famously my number one pick out of the talks.
Yeah.
I'd be open to.
Yeah.
Tamer Tuna, no chance. Typhoon Korkut, no, thank you.
No, Typhoon Korkut hasn't coached in March. It'll be 3 years since he's last coached, I think. So, like, why would you bring him? He started off in Germany and quite promising, but then kind of fizzled out. So, no interest whatsoever in Typhoon Korkut. No.
Yeah, and then we've got Shifo Mehmet as well. We've both kind of said would not be interested. Maybe had a good stint with Antalya 10 plus years ago, but not coached for a few years as well. Last time was
Erzurumspor, I think, in like 2022 or 23 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think it was even maybe a bit before that. Arturo Salam, you said you'd be interested in that.
Yeah, but then apparently he has some Feto connections, so
yeah.
I mean, again, I think Ertuğrul Salam is known more as a pragmatist, so, and also like his heyday is like a decade ago already, so it's like
I wouldn't be interested, man. Not for me at all, man.
Out of the Beşiktaş legends that are being mentioned, he'd definitely be the only one I'd even dare consider. Because he's the only one that's actually achieved anything as a coach, other than Shifo Mehmet. Respectable jobs everywhere he went, I think, but never reached. Never really reached for the brass knuckle, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
or the brass ring. The brass ring. Sorry,
that's it, man. Remember that was a thing in like the mid 2010s. The brass ring. Yeah. You need to grab it.
Yeah. What about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Grey Wolf asks.
I mean. Again, he's more of a pragmatist, more of a kind of Niko Kovac style coach, isn't he? Or Bo Svensson, that kind of defensive first, and then kind of hit them with the high press, try and force them into mistakes. That's the type of coach he is. So I don't think he really suits what we want to do. So I wouldn't want him. Also on that list to finish it out was Ibrahim Uzunmes, who we've both said no. Much as I did like him as a kid. I liked Eddie Bowman as a left back. I remember he started playing great, man, in that championship season in 08-09. The second half of the season, he just started playing really, really good. I'll always like him as a player, but I don't think I'd ever want him as a coach. And then obviously the name they started off all this, Sergen Yalchin, obviously isn't coming due to his brother Gursoy Yalchin's health concerns. Obviously, we wish him the best. So he was obviously the first name mentioned, but the first to kind of he was plan A, but it didn't work out because of what he said. So that's the list. It's been a very long list.
It's a very long list, exactly. Ten Hag is a Grey Wolf suggests Erik Ten Hag. How would you feel about that one, Kartal?
Why not, man? Why not?
I know a lot of our Dutch friends. They are very keen on Erik Ten Hag for obviously he did a fantastic job at Ajax. I would be less into it because I think the situation at Manchester United is very comparable to. I feel like there's a lot of similarities, and I just feel like if he was able to handle that Man United squad so badly, how is he going to come into Beşiktaş and do a much better job? Like, I don't know if he's. I'm sure he's an excellent coach when given the right tools, but it doesn't seem to be great at managing a situation, a derailed train, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I would not be super keen on it. Let's see, because we have a lot of comments. Let's see, where did we end? Hopefully the new coach is a young coach, Grey Wolf says. Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously for a coach, young is relative, but I think anyone under the age of 60, but preferably between like the age of like 40 and 55. But for example, Roger Schmidt, if I'm not mistaken, is 57. So I definitely.
He's actually older.
Yeah. 57, 58. How old is he?
Yeah, I think 57's right. Yeah.
Yeah, 57. So, I mean, I'm putting the bar at 60, but like I think ideally you want somebody between like the ages of 45 and 55. That's considered relatively young for a coach. For example, Serdar Topraktepe is 49 years old. He's about to turn 50 this year. He's still considered a relatively young coach. Razvan Lucescu is 55. For me, that's still good. But as long as you don't go like 60 plus, because once you go 60 plus, you start going into like a different generation of coaches. And there's exceptions, of course, for everything. But I think generally I agree with what Grey Wolf says. I would want somebody who is younger. Like Çağdaş Atan, for example, is a very young coach. I'm not sure how young Çağdaş is exactly, but he's like, he must be like 42 or something. Let me look that up.
I think that's about right. He's 42.
I think he's from 1982, but I might be mistaken. Oh no, he's from 1980, so he's 44. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on the young end, I think. And Arda is Kim's age, I think. So he's from 87, if I'm not mistaken. So he's like 36, 37. So that's actually very young for a coach. He's from 1987. So he's turning 38 this month, I think. Because it's this month is his birthday. Omer says Celtic has a few Japanese players that. We already talked about that. Then Sinan's comment about having to Google. Grey Wolf said about Nuri Sahin. Adale said that news named all the coaches available is coming to Beşiktaş. Yeah, that's true. So they're throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and they're hoping something to stick. The other day, your brother actually, Kartal, said, it looks like Firat Güner is being Serdar Adale's mouthpiece. I don't really know how he came to that conclusion because, Firat Güner...
Because Serdar Adale actually said about getting Firat Güner on the communications team.
Oh, imagine, man. Imagine. Let's hope that Firat Güner pulls through his tremendous record of a decade plus of being a complete and utter BSer. Because if he's talking the truth right now, then I don't really. I want to go to a different multiverse or a different dimension where Firat Güner is still talking out of his ass. Then, because if Niko Kovac is making his decision tonight, let's hope he decides no.
Yeah, hopefully, man.
Yeah.
Murat's in saying Schmidt's number one, Kovac number two. Hopefully, the fact that Kovac being number two, hopefully he's wrong as well. But Murat was in says he's very, very confident about that information, man. So it's quite scary.
Yeah, but then hopefully Roger Schmidt can be convinced.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Sinan Schwarting says, realistically, they are either lazy and settle on like Bilic / a usual suspect, or they have to get creative and take a risk. Kovac feels like trying to avoid doing either and settling. Yeah, I agree, man. That's exactly what that feels like. That feels like somebody who has a relatively big name, coached Bayern München, like Kartal said, and it's just like, oh, look, we're bringing in Bayern München's former coach. It feels lazy. Exact same with Fernando Santos, where we're bringing in the coach that made Portugal European champions. Yeah, it's just lazy. Mario says Nuri was great at Antalyaspor. Yes, that's true. It's very fair. I wouldn't be against Nuri. I wasn't against Nuri at the beginning of the season either. I was actually very in favor, if I remember correctly. I think you were too, Kartal. I think we were all kind of excited about that potential of Nuri.
I wasn't entirely convinced, but I was open to it.
I think we were a lot more excited about it than Gio, though. Because I remember when the Geo news broke, we were all kind of like, what? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny how I've changed from being one of the people that's the most against Gio to being really upset about how it ended up. Because I mean, that's just because of how I felt in that first kind of couple of months, from what we saw, and that kind of turned me around on Gio. But yeah, I was one of the most against him, man. Second to my brother, who went silent in the group chat for about a month after Gio was announced.
Yeah, until we trashed Galatasaray in the cup. Ömer says, need someone that worked with Brazil/Argentina or Asian clubs where he knows hidden gems, because we can't keep going for European players. They are all out of our budget. You know what? I think most Brazilian and Argentinian hidden gems are out of our budget as well, because those gems tend to not stay hidden. Especially in Brazil, they seem to be buying them younger and younger now. But yeah, I mean, one of the names I was thinking is Marcelo Gallardo, who had been linked with us in the past. He went for a brief stint in Saudi Arabia, wasn't super successful there. Now he's back at the River Plate. But he could be an interesting option. But again, will he be interested in another adventure after so recently not working out in Saudi? And then, I mean, clearly back at River Plate now, so you would imagine he's comfortable there. Probably made bank in Saudi as well, so probably doesn't need the money. Probably didn't need the money to go to begin with anyway, because he was already a pretty successful footballer before that. But yeah, technically, Ömer, that would be more on the guy above him if we get a proper club structure in place. That's also true. If we're going to get somebody in that not sporting director role, then I don't really think you necessarily have to look towards the coach. You have to look towards that person to, bring in talent and find those hidden gems, hopefully. But seeing as we're going to go for somebody from Germany, it looks like, it's unlikely that this person is going to start bringing in like hidden gems from South America and Japan. And it's probably more like, people in Germany and stuff, right? Carlitos says, especially with the further tightening financial fair play rules, I think in 25-26 you can spend maximum 70% of your revenue on transfer fees, management fees, wages of players and coaches. That's also something we need to consider. Grey Wolf says Dortmund is losing 2-0 right now against Bayer Leverkusen, so that ties into Nuri Sahin potentially getting sacked. Then there's his comment about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We already talked about that. Mario says no to Nutella. And I think we all wholeheartedly agree with that. Then we have Carlito saying Van Gaal for the shock effect. To which Mario Vargas replies no. And Greyolf asked if Edin Terzic wasn't mentioned. And yes, he was mentioned, Greyolf. Kartan mentioned him in his list. But Terzic has apparently turned us down already because he's waiting for an offer from the Premier League. And supposedly he is in particular waiting for an offer from Tottenham, who might be sacking Ange in the near future. Omer Gunal says, don't bother mentioning Moyes. He is going to Everton. Yeah, that's true. It looks like he's taking the vacant Everton job after they just sacked Sean Dyche. Grey Wolf says, can any coaches from Belgium? There's a couple of guys. I was always very keen on Wouter Franke, who was working for KV Mechelen, then Genk, and now Gent. But he's only just taken that Ghent job, so I highly doubt he would be interested in a Turkish adventure. Philippe Clément, somebody I really like. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the sack at Rangers at some point, so he might be available in the near future. He's a good coach, but I don't know, man. Turkish football is a beast in its own. I don't know if a level-headed Belgian guy would be very successful in Turkey. I think Eric Gerrits was successful at Galatasaray, I guess, but yeah, I think you need to have I don't know. Right now in Belgium, I'm just thinking if there's anyone that I would particularly like to see. I mean, Mark van Bommel was very successful for Antwerp. He's obviously Dutch. But again, that's a brand of football that I don't really want to see necessarily. I think he's closer to Diego Simeone in style. It's more fight football, not so much... it is pragmatic in a way, but it's like very hard, very aggressive, like he was as a player, really. I think that could potentially work at Beşiktaş, but, I prefer if we stay away from anything that isn't an offensive profile right now. Yeah, you agree? Yeah. Sinan says, regarding Gio, it's a strength of yours, Kartal, your ability to move off of opinions / not develop agendas and grudges. Yeah, it's definitely true. It's definitely true. Because, sometimes you just need to recognize when you were wrong. Not necessarily saying that you were wrong, but like you can recognize it yourself, or sometimes you feel like, oh, my opinion on something was unjustified, and it's I think it's a good quality to be able to come back on a previous opinion and say, I changed my mind. Nothing wrong with that. Why are we bringing Siegbert, who is just a regular scout, to a de facto position of director of football, says TLN, or is that TIN? I can't quite make it out. Look, I think Beşiktaş are in a position very much the same way with the sporting director as we are in a position with coaches, where Beşiktaş cannot really afford and doesn't have we simply don't have the reputation or the who are you going to bring in as a sporting director? Like, anyone who has had success in recent years, who isn't completely past it, whose last big success as a sporting director wasn't 10-15 years ago, is not going to be interested in the job, especially seeing how little time Brad Friedel just got. I think you're going to have to go for a person who's looking to work himself up. This was what we were talking about earlier, where we need to take more risks, both with players and with coaches, where we give chances to the potential next Roger Schmidt, the next Roger Schmidt, not Roger Schmidt itself, because like we said, the numbers being talked about for Roger Schmidt is like 6 million a year. You need to find, for example, the Kevin Muscat, the next Roger Schmidt, and you can maybe bring him in for a lot less, and this person's going to be hungry, he's going to be wanting to make it the next step in his career, and the same thing goes for players. I also think the same thing goes for a sporting director. I think you need to find someone that has the potential and the ability to be a good sporting director, but who hasn't had the chance yet. And you need to be the one who's willing to give this person a chance. So personally, I think, going for a scout like that is not a bad tactic at all, actually.
An old scout, a successful scout that's worked at top clubs.
Yeah. I mean, he worked for both Dortmund and Bayern München, so he must be doing something right.
Exactly.
Yusuf says, looking at our schedule, I'm thinking we ain't winning the next 5 games. Our next 5 matches are... 3 of the next 5 matches are at home, actually. So we are playing Bodrum at home this weekend. Then we are playing Samsun at home, which is very tough. And then we're playing Athletic Club at home in the Europa League. So I really hope we beat Bodrum. And I hope by the time we play Samsun, our new coach is in place. And I hope maybe a couple of transfers already. Supposedly, I don't know if Serdal Adalis said this, but somebody said this at least today, that 3 transfers are ready to come, and they're just awaiting the appointment of the coach and for him to sign off on the transfers. I think Serjan Dikme said that actually today, so take it with a bag of salt. And then finally, the last comment that's come in is Ömer Gunas. Clément is turning it around at Rangers.
He's not.
He
beat Celtic 3-0, but he drew the 2 games after that.
Yeah.
So, just as everyone thought, it was being turned around. He's dropped points 2 games in a row.
Yeah. But do you think is that Clement's fault or is that the squad? Because I've been reading a lot about that squad, man.
I mean, I can't say I've looked too much into it, but there is protests on. There's people on Twitter saying that they're going to protest they're going to go to the training facilities and ask for Clement to be sacked.
Clement, not Clement.
Clement.
Philippe Clement.
Clement.
All right. Any of these names that you want to dive into a little bit, Katla, before we end the show? Want to talk about any of these coaches that really excite you, maybe?
I mean, I think I've kind of said the ones that I'm interested in, man. Like, obviously Roger Schmidt, Razvan Luchescu, Chada, Sharda. Out of those names, the other ones I'm interested in. Bilic as well, even. But the rest, I'm not really interested in, man.
Top two picks.
Right. I mean, it's Razvan and Schmidt from that list. What about you?
I agree with you, yeah. Razvan and Schmidt. But both will probably be expensive and very difficult. Yeah, Niko Kovac is somebody I'm really dreading it. I really hope it doesn't happen.
It's going to happen. Let's be honest.
I mean, I hope it's and I hope if it happens that we are wrong, and that he does great, and I will be 100% behind him. But I am going to be really, really pissed if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's just they never learn, man. Like, how can we think these things through and someone that's made a lot of money in their life like Sardar? Well, we don't know. Maybe Kovac is bullshit, you know. But how can this guy that's made all this money, and you must be smart to a degree, man, if you've been able to be so successful in life, how can you not think these things through? It doesn't make sense to me, but anyway,
we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, though, Kat. Let's see who he actually ends up appointing before we start criticizing the decision.
But even if that list is Schmidt and Kovac, it makes no sense. It should be, if it's not Schmidt, you should find like maybe less expensive, less proven Schmidt that play a similar style and brand of football. That's a logical list.
That's logical. I agree. Yeah. Let's hope that whoever the scout is has. I mean, we've been hearing this was something that's being said for a while. Is that whoever the scout is really keen on Roger Schmidt. We've been hearing that for a few weeks. So let's hope it's true. Let's hope the scout can maybe convince Schmidt. Let's hope Adale can convince Schmidt. And let's hope that we can bring in a couple of good players so that Rafa isn't on his own anymore. Rafa and Jetson, because we need more quality, and then hopefully a good second half of the season.
Inshallah.
Yeah. Is the game is tomorrow, I think, against Bodrum? Or is it on Sunday? Yeah. Tomorrow. Still quite a few tickets available. I saw earlier Serdar Adale did a video on the official socials of the club calling the fans to the stadium. The prices have been slashed. I think the cheapest ticket is now 500 lira instead of 900 lira. So, I mean, it's not the prices anymore. The prices already have gone down significantly. So, fans not showing up don't have that excuse anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But on the other hand, can't really blame them either, given how bad we've been playing for a long time now. And still no coach, still no change, really. Obviously, new transfers, that's impossible because they wouldn't be able to play. You could already have brought them in, of course, but The Grey Wolf says Sunday. Is it Sunday or tomorrow?
It's tomorrow, man. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock GMT, 5 o'clock Central European time, and 7 o'clock in Turkey.
All right. Let's see. Tin says, mindset of Schmidt is fitting to Beşiktaş. However, I am not sure if he would succeed at these circumstances. I think that's the same for everyone right now, right? I mean, it's a very difficult situation we are in. And I think any coach coming right now will need time. Although, a couple of transfers can change a lot. The thing with Schmidt, though, I mean, Schmidt coming in would really mean the end of Musrati, I feel like if you bring in Schmidt, you need to sell Musrati this window. Because he's not gonna work in that system.
That was going to happen, man, even if Sergen came in too, man. So
yeah, but
it's something we're ready for anyway.
Yeah, but if you bring in a coach that maybe plays a little bit less intense brand of football, you could still keep Musrati for 6 months, play him regularly, and then hopefully sell him in the summer. But I think if Schmidt comes, or somebody with a similar philosophy to Schmidt, Musrati isn't going to play in that system, I don't think. So then you're better off selling him now, because if you don't play him for 6 months or barely play him for 6 months, then you're only going to devalue him more.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree, man. But I think if we can get a fair amount of change for Musrati, man, that's probably the best thing to do at this point, because I think that bond between him and the fan is fractured already. It's not going to turn around at this point, I think. So, especially if Schmidt comes, I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, Grey Wolf also asked, did Abdali say when he plans to get a new coach? No, Grey Wolf, the only thing he said was that we're not going to rush the decision, that we want to make the right decision, and we're not going to cave under pressure from social media, and we're going to take as long as we need to make the right decision. So that's the only thing he said. So the only thing we can conclude out of that is that it's probably not going to be within the next 72 hours. It might take a few more days or another week or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Sinan says like, follow, and subscribe, folks. Let's go Beşiktaş. Exactly, I see, is it Tin? It's Tin, right? Tin, I haven't seen you in the comments before. Welcome. Glad to see you here. If you aren't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Oh, and by the way, guys, I keep forgetting this at the top of the show, and it's really, really super important. Please hit the like button. It's so important to get us in the YouTube algorithm so other people can find the show easier. Let's see, Grey Wolf says, oh yeah, I thought Sunday was the 11th. Tin says, Schmidt also had a narrow formation of 3 central attacking midfielders and no wingers before he was sacked this year. Yeah, that's maybe a good thing because he can work within the confines of our squad, maybe. What were you gonna say, Kata?
He is a winger, so I wouldn't say he's getting no wingers.
He's a winger, but he's also 37, 38 years old. You know,
yeah.
So he doesn't do a lot of running anymore. Yeah. So maybe, I mean, the thing is with Schmidt as well is he would be coming into a club where he already knows Rafa, he knows João Mário, keen on both of them. Be prepared to see a lot more of João Mário if Schmidt comes.
Yeah, he loves him, man.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if João Mário takes Musrati's spot in the team if Schmidt comes.
Possibly.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't even be against it. I think, you know, we have to get the most out of João Mário because we've signed him.
We're stuck with him.
He's our player, exactly. And like the thing is, I feel like, have you ever felt that he's a bad football player this season, Karta? Like looking at him.
I mean,
like when I watch Rasička sometimes, I just think to myself, like, how did you get here? You know? And I don't have that feeling with João Mário.
He's not really impressed me, but he shows maybe slight things in some games, like especially that first game. And I actually think in this cup game the other day, in the first half, he had a really nice pass as well before the goal, and then he assisted the goal as well. So there was 2 very nice passes in that first half he had, which we haven't seen much of, to be honest. But he showed that he can do it twice in that first half.
Yeah, I thought he was good in the first half, honestly. And I thought the team was decent in the first half, but then we just dropped off so much in the second half. And I don't know what that is, man. Is that the coach not being able to make proper tweaks? Is that just the team being their confidence being so deep into their shoes? It's so difficult to say. I just feel like a proper coach would probably be able to get a lot more out of these players, though, even now.
Probably. You think so?
Right. Well, let's end on the note with Tin's last comment is he made João Mário look like a like a football player. Yeah. I mean, I think João Mário had a good season before that at Sporting as well. And of course, he's a Portuguese international and stuff like that. I think with João Mário, yeah, there's a good footballer in there somewhere, and we just need to get it out. But he's coming out of a difficult situation with Benfica. He was in a very similar situation as he is now in Beşiktaş, I think. But yeah, let's hope that whatever happens in the next couple of days or weeks, we end up enjoying watching Beşiktaş again, and I think that's the only thing we can really hope for. Grey Wolf asks, did Adale state when he expected to hire a new coach? No, Grey Wolf, like I said, man, he said we're going to take our time. We're not going to rush any decisions. We want to make sure that we make the right decision, so he did not say when he expects to hire a new coach. So it could be a few days, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks. Let's hope it's not, because the transfer window is opening on Tuesday, I think, the 13th. So tomorrow's the 11th. Monday, sorry. So on Monday, the transfer market is opening in Turkey. And the longer it takes that we appoint a coach, the longer it's going to take for us to bring in reinforcements. And the second half of the season is starting after this Bodrum game. So next weekend, we have a home game against Samsun. And that's going to be the first game in the second half of the season. So new players would be eligible to play. So let's hope the new coach is announced within the next couple of days. And then also hopefully we can sign some players straight away. Tin says, looking forward to our 1-1 draw against Bodrum. Yeah. The lowest scoring team in the league. Let's watch them put 3 past us like Adana Demirspor. Let's hope to God that doesn't happen.
Hopefully not.
Anything left to add? Anything you want to say before we go off?
And let's just, fingers crossed, man, our coach will be announced soon. Hopefully alongside the not sporting director. Big game tomorrow. Hopefully we get the 3 points.
Yeah.
My hopes aren't very high, to be honest. And just remember, folks, man, stay with Beşiktaş.
Exactly. Go check out our Patreon page if you want to support us other than liking, commenting, and subscribing, or joining us in the live chat, of course. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up, because that does help out a lot. If you aren't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you just discovered us and want to join in on the fun, you want to talk to all these people in the comments, because almost every single one, not everyone, but almost all of them are in our WhatsApp community chat. Go to patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast, become a free member. Don't have to become a paid subscriber or anything. As long as you become a member, you gain access to our invitational link to WhatsApp. Click the link, join the group, join the fun, talk to the people in the chat. We have a great wrestling community. It's growing every week. New people are joining, and it's really fun. Lots of like-minded people talking about Beşiktaş, sharing their passion for the club, for the Black Eagles. Join us on the WhatsApp community. If you want to support us other than just liking, commenting, subscribing, and following, and talking to us and commenting, you can join us on Patreon as a paid member, as a Black Eagle VIP, for just $1.99 a month. The first 7 days are free. If you join us now, first 7 days are free. It's a trial that you can cancel at any time. So even if you just want to check it out, take the 7 days for free. Try it out. Listen to our VIP podcast. Check out our exclusive shows on there. For example, on the 15th of this month, so Wednesday, I guess, Mario Vargas, who has been in the comment section today, very active as well today, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about how he became a Beşiktaş fan. He has a very interesting story, because he's born and raised in New Jersey in the USA, but currently resides in Antalya after marrying the love of his life, who he met in Jersey. And he became a Beşiktaş fan. He tells us his story of how he became a Beşiktaş fan. You can already watch it on our Patreon page, because you get early access to those types of video content, and then later on it comes on YouTube. We will be doing some more interviews in the coming weeks with other people, and hopefully I will be sitting down with somebody soon to talk about the Athletic Bilbao game. all that kind of stuff, that video content you get early access to, but you also get access to our VIP exclusive podcast every week. We record once, sometimes twice. If it's very busy, it can be even more than that. But this week, I think I did 2 episodes. I did one on Monday, I believe. And then I did one on Wednesday or something. I think it was Wednesday, where I had this long-ass rant about how still nothing has happened. Alluded to it a lot earlier. So for just $1.99 a month, you gain access to that for more Beşiktaş content. That'll do it for me for today and for Kartal. Kartal, are you still there? Because I saw you left. Oh, you're there. Okay. So I think that'll do it. Go check us out on Patreon. If you don't want to become a Black Eagle VIP member, at the very least, become a free member so you can gain access to our WhatsApp community. Join us there. Come talk about Beşiktaş. And thank you all for listening. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And hopefully we see you again in the next episode. I think that'll probably be on Monday. The match is tomorrow, but I have something very, very important tomorrow. I don't even know if I'll be able to watch the game. But we will probably be there on Monday to talk about hopefully a good result against Bodrum. And hopefully we can talk about something more concrete about the next Beşiktaş coach. Kartal, thank you very much for joining me, my friend. And see you all next week to talk about some more about Beşiktaş. Bye-bye. Thank you to all our Patreon members: Oskan Zerzavaci, Atılcan Malak, Paul O'Connor, Nathan Davis, Finish Kebab, Dara Hensi, Mario Vargas, Steve Gregory, Lial Tarek, and finally the Dutch Eagle, aka Carlito, aka Ural. If you want your name on here like all these fantastic people, join us on patreon.com/BeşiktaşPodcast and become a Black Eagle VIP member. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.